And one of the core tenets of my campaign, the slogan was truth, actually. But it caused me to reflect more deeply on, okay, what did that actually mean? And what are the stakes for the future of this movement that I ran my presidential campaign as part of the America First movement? What is the future of that movement, and how does it relate to the pursuit of truth? And so that's what this book is about. It goes through 10 simple, hard truths, and I can tell you what some of those are. But it's a little bit different than the books that I've written in the past. I wrote Woke Inc., which actually was our first basis to get to know one another, that first book. And this is my fourth book I've written in the last 3 years, but this one's different in that it's not actually an academic exposition of any kind. It doesn't pretend to be. It's designed to equip people with the kinds of points they can use in dinner table talking point conversation with friends on the left who they otherwise may not be interacting with. Because I think one of the premises of the book is not just the content of it, but the methodology of how we get our country back, I think, is going to be through more open dialogue that we're not having amongst even friends and even family members for whom certain cultural or political topics have gone beyond the pale. And so each chapter ends with 5 hard points or facts that you took away from that chapter. I've never written a book that had that type of character to it, as opposed to maybe more, intellectual or academic bent. But I think that this actually may be the most useful of the books that I will have written, I hope, because it would arm a lot of everyday citizens who agree with the points that I make in the book, but may not have been able to distill them in ways that allow them to talk to their friends on the left or friends who are outside of political interest, to be able to start the conversations at the dinner table that we're otherwise not having. So it's not quite a how-to book, but it does have an element of guiding people to have difficult conversations with friends. And I think that's a crucial part of this, with friends who they otherwise might have experienced distance with. That's part of what this book hopes to accomplish as well.
Can we walk through some of those truths? Do you want to detail some of them out so that people have a more clear understanding of what it is? And also explain to us why you selected and focused on those?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one is God is real. And I'll go straight down the list of some of these. God is real.
Yeah, do that.
There are 2 genders. The climate change agenda is a hoax. That's an adaptation of what I used in my campaign, that fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Another one is that reverse racism is racism. Another is that an open border is not a border. Another is that in a democracy, the people we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government. Or as I phrase it in the book, there are 3 branches of government in the United States, not 4. That's actually probably one of the most important chapters of the book, albeit the one that gets the most technical. Another one is that nationalism isn't a bad word. And that's a chapter whose thesis is that the elected leaders of a nation, including the United States, owe their first moral duty to the citizens of their nation. So that explores, I think, a lot of the themes relating to the future of America First. There's a chapter entitled Facts Are Not Conspiracies. And, again, these truths are written in the chapter that follows that is the U.S. Constitution is the strongest and greatest guarantor of freedom in human history. Another chapter explores the importance of the nuclear family. I make the claim in the book that the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. So it gives you a sense for the kinds of truths that I expose in this book. They're the kinds of things that, had I said these things in the 1990s when I grew up in the American Midwest, I would have advised you to not buy this book because they would have been too obvious, right? The things that are so obvious, they would have been banal to say. The irony is now in the year 2024, many of those statements are controversial for the same reasons that they were banal 30 years ago. And I think it is when the obvious becomes controversial that it is really a reminder of how far we've fallen as a country.